Hi, my name's Dave Genetic, and I'm a saddle maker from Spring Valley, Minnesota. I've been studying saddles and biomechanics for the last 30 years of my life. And today there are a couple products out on the market that are designed by marketing people and are injuring horses at an unprecedented rate. So I'd like to talk to you about them. Those are flex-treed saddles and flexible panel systems. Before we can understand why they don't work, we need to understand what we're trying to fit. So if you can think of your horse's wither as a pyramid and understand that different withers create different heights of pyramids and different angles of withers make the pyramid longer, and then also understand that ribs come in different shapes so the pyramid can get wider, you come to realize that there's an infinite variety of shapes of pyramids that we can see on horses' backs. Then you combine that with the fact that horses have different spreads of ribs and different lengths of spinal processes. The spinal processes are the little bony things that protrude up off the centra of the horse. So the combination of those lengths and the rib spread create different angles on our horse's body. Now, if you take those pyramids and you kind of push them up through the angles created by the spread of the ribs, you get quite a few different shapes. But what does happen is that there's a change in angle from where the pyramid comes in to where the ribs go. So different horses have different angles or different amounts of twist that the bar needs to have to fit the horse. Now those 2 degrees of twist, or that rate of twist, is also set at different angles. So you have different rates of twist set at different angles. Okay? Now the third thing that we need to understand is the rock. And so different horses, depending on their wither and how well they're carrying themselves, might need more or less curvature to the underside of the saddle. So I've got a flex-tree saddle here, and we're going to look at it and see if it can translate and actually do what they say it's going to do. Now, what we do know is that if I push down here, I can adjust the rock. But the rock is really only adjusted in the back part. Normally, the rock needs to be adjusted up forward. So it does do that. But now let's take a look at if it will flex and change angle in the front. If I push here, there's no movement. And there's no movement because the saddle has a rigid front. Now here's the rule. If a saddle's going to have a flexible tree, everything has to be flexible. The rule in saddles is the most rigid part of the saddle will determine the saddle fit. So because this is rigid, this can be as flexible as it wants, but if it can't adjust that angle, it's really not doing you any good. Now, let's go in the back. Can that adjust angle there? Nope. There's no flex there. And here again, it's because this rigid arch is preventing any movement. The most rigid part of the saddle is going to be what determines saddle fit. So the only thing that this will help you with is the rock. But the other thing you should understand, in order for this to go down, it has to increase pressure here and here. So when you sit on it, this can only bend when there's increased pressure here and here. So now what I'm going to do is take this saddle apart and we'll see what it really looks like underneath there. Okay, I've pulled the skirts off the saddle and now you can see the system, the flex bar itself. And so let's take a look and see what this can actually do. Now if I go back here, there is actually some flex, which isn't a bad thing. But here again, the thing you need to realize is that this is taking quite a bit of force to be able to get bend there. Now on a traditional bar, we deal with this by just putting a little bit of flare to the end of the bar so it won't dig into the horse. This one is almost guaranteed to dig into the horse. Here you can see how they've taken and stapled the bar to the cantle. Okay, so there is no way that this angle can change. It's been tacked onto something rigid, and that rigid thing is going to determine the angle. Now, when we come up here, which is one of the areas that you often have problems with saddles, you would like to be able to have this bend away so it didn't interfere with any of the muscles on the front part of the horse. But as you can see, there just is very little give there. So the saddle is not going to give you any flare. It doesn't have any ability to increase the flare. And here again, we talked about the angles. This cannot change angle at all there. There's something attaching the bar here. So we really just don't get any ability to change the twist much at all on this. All we really get is the ability to bend like that. So that's really not going to help you at all with your saddle fitting. So that's a flexible treed saddle exposed. Now let's take a look at flexible panel saddles that have basically the same flaw, but they put it in a different position. Okay, in order to help you understand how flexible panel systems work and what their tragic flaw is, I've taken a regular tree and I've attached 4 pivot points on it. This is a gross exaggeration, but it'll help you understand the concept. So this is the basic premise of flexible panel systems, that they take these 4 pivot points and they add a flexible panel on top of it. And they tell you that this will allow the flexible panel to conform to the horse's back. And obviously it can. The problem is, once again, the most rigid part of the saddle is going to determine fit. And what happens on them is the 4 pivot points are where problems are caused. So here again, this is a saddle that's designed for marketing purposes and not for using purposes. Okay, so with a little common sense and some basic knowledge, it becomes very clear that flexible panel systems and flexible treed systems just don't work. Now there are flexible saddles on the market or that have been used for many generations that do work, such as the Gaucho saddle of South America. The key there is everything on the saddle is flexible. It doesn't use any rigid arches or hard pivot points to create the flex. Everything is flexible and then it will work. I hope this helps you in your saddle search. If you'd like more information, go to aboutthehorse.com, and we even have a video about saddle fit that explains the basic functioning elements of a saddle so that it can help you make a good decision when you go to buy. Thanks!